Hello there guys, welcome back to I Can't Witch Without, the series where we look at things which I think are important to my witchcraft practice, and I have moved over here on Patreon. This month we're having a look at fox magic. I will just make a quick note here, I'm going to mention it somewhere else too, that I'm going to move the bone work until next month with Hel. So Hel was the Hel is the Nordic goddess of the underworld and death, and she was the runner-up in the popular vote. So I thought that's what we would do next month. Just because this month has taken unexpected turns, isn't that always the way under Morrigan, and the focus hasn't been quite what I expected, and so that's what I think we'll do, give the bones and the reading of the bones and that kind of energy a full month of like really digging our claws into that, and this month we'll talk about the spirit work instead, so as well. And so fox work here is my totem, it's the animal that I work with. If you're on the $25 tier, you already know how I feel about particular animals associated with your energy, your totem, and it bears worth repeating. So for me personally, the thing that makes the most sense to me is that you'd have a animal energy that you most naturally vibrate and resonate with, 3 of them, so that you have one in the area and the realm of land, you have one in the realm of sea, and you have one in the realm of sky, and you kind of discover these over the process of your lifetime. But everything being connected as it is through the spiritual ecosystem, you can still connect to the energies of different animals and have that experience, in my understanding of how it works, but it's not going to be as easy for you. It's not going to be like slipping on a second skin is kind of how I kind of like gone crazy. It's like, oh, we're talking about foxes. Yeah, you calm down now, I've noticed you. Oh no, there we go. So that's how I feel about it personally. So you can kind of do the astral journey work, the shape-shifting journey work with different animals other than the ones that you naturally vibrate around. It's just that those will be the most natural to you, and you will find a lot of yourself in their symbolism and in their mythology as well. So that being said, and you can find the following information on the blog post, but I am going to go over how I feel about fox magic associated with Bave in particular. And the blog post is an odd journey to the underworld with foxes and moths, both of which I've come in my personal gnosis to connect with Bave. There is a reference to foxes which I will find later for you guys in the actual mythos from the time of the Morrigan. There's obviously nothing of moths particularly, other than their well-known association with shrouds and death shrouds and things of that nature, but we're not talking about moths for now. We are talking about les foxes. So for me, I've had a lot of underworld journeying with fox. The energy of the fox is sometimes called the trickster. I think this is shadow, I think this is fear, I think this is the human fear of things that are intelligent and are very intelligent. Same with crows, corvids and things, all of course associated with the Morrigan. The creatures of the otherness, the creatures that consume bodies and things like that, and therefore perform the role in Celtic mythology of the psychopomp who ferries the soul to the other world after death. And so because it was associated with death, those sorts of animals the people are afraid of them. Some people will be annoyed about foxes because of livestock and things, but you know, human hubris, thinking they have the right to dictate to other animals how other animals are supposed to live. So for me, the beginning was in blood and death. Initially, the astral vision of a fox biting into his prey with a bloodied mouth, followed swiftly by an extremely tangible taste of death in my own mouth. So this was one of the things that happened when I was connecting deeper to fox energy, the fox totem. I had a very visceral reaction to working with it on the astral. Now, something that I do that you may find helpful when working with any animal in the shape-shifting perspective is to sort of, you see through its eyes. That's how it starts. So for me, often it's like the animal that is looking at me, directly at me, quite close to my face when I'm visualizing, when I'm meditating. And then it kind of switches so that I am then sitting behind and underneath their skin. So I'm looking through their eyes and I take on that aspect, to take on what it feels like to be within that. And that to me is the element of shape-shifting within my own practice. So I have also had very visceral reactions. That kind of bite of death was really disgusting. I was not pleased, I have to say, when that happened. I was like, blah, 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 blah. And it wasn't like a raw meat kind of thing. No, it was like biting into death. It was horrible. But the first step was taken. It was literally a bite into death. I would come to later realise it was also the internalization of fear, which was the shadow lesson. As the fox tasted blood and death, so too would I. And then this also relates to the idea of chasing the shadow, the tail of the fox and the rabbit. So that is a second blog post that I've done, and that's talking about fear. It starts off with the quote from Ghost in the Shell, "Don't send a rabbit to kill a fox," which I saw that at the same time I was going through all of this. And we're going to just read to you how that ties into the fox magic in my mind. And of course Morrigan, this will all tie into the shadow lessons, the Morrigan spaces. Long has humanity feared the dark spaces. The underworld, perhaps the pinnacle of all dark spaces, has peculiar methods of communication. The recent journey of soul instigated within me has been littered with synchronicity and crystal clear moments of understanding, and began largely with a cup of coffee, well, 2 to be exact. So this was when I was having absolutely insane coffee, symbolism within the bottom of my coffee. I will try and show you on the iPad. I don't know how well. Oh, you can kind of see. So it's all ancestors, and then the white also makes up ancestors, like bowing down to them. It was really, really fascinating. Coffee, which you may or may not remember. And the resulting otherworldly expedition started from the smallest fragment of the divination, in which a small rabbit was discernible amidst the forest. Initially, my deepening relationship with fox made the emergence of rabbit lesson peculiar. They are usually envisioned as at odds, with the fox being the hunter and the rabbit being the prey. But as many messages from the otherworld are, answers began to slowly shift into place. Nothing is ever so separate, as rigid as many would have us believe, and the power and the understanding comes with seeing patterns, energies, and lessons as cyclic, constantly in flux. One lesson was delving into the spirit was simply, you are not alone. Fear has been on my mind a lot lately, and this has kind of cycled back to this Samhain in particular, with the shadows. The rabbits have been coming up again, and so it's kind of like going over this lesson with fox and rabbit for me, particularly this Samhain. The devastating effect fear can have on a person, preventing them from truly living their life or reaching their potential. As magical practitioners, it interferes in our work, derails our personal energy, leaving us feeling a plethora of emotions that block us from adventure and contentment. Fear is described as something that freezes, forces us to remain still, hindering our movement and growth, a concept which I have always felt at odds with. Impatience springs forth, like the fox with my subconscious onto its prey when the situation requires long periods of waiting. This is still true. I am no good at waiting at all. Whilst realising and engaging with the otherworldly concept of cyclic existence, it occurred to me, however, that stillness was not paradoxal. Instead, sitting wrapped in the darkness, sitting with the fear, being enveloped by it, acknowledging it, and then birthing it anew was of paramount importance. Rabbit is known as the fear caller, which was particularly from the medicine cards, in which rabbit uses and benefits from a magical powers of a witch, and then out of fear rejects her. As a result, he and his kin become the fear callers. All they fear makes its way to them, and they manifest that which they are afraid of. Two quotes in particular within this story resonated. Running does not stop the pain or turn dark to light, and what you fear will persist, what you fear you will become. In a world littered with choices and options, it can feel like often we are mired by them, not knowing which way to turn, with what path to engage in, or whom to trust. And 2020 has been a year of that, so much. Instead of realising the depth of his friendship with the witch, the rabbit chose to fear the magic. The focus was negative, ruled by fear, and he hurt his friend as a result. We have all been the rabbit, and we have all been the witch. We have all had our friendship, deeds, our goodwill rejected unfairly. We have all been used and dismissed by others, and similarly, we have all made the wrong call, focus only on the part of the lesson we blindly choose to see, ignoring the larger picture. Slowly, the otherworldly lesson of shapeshifting echoed through my mind. You are both the fox and the rabbit. Blood in the mouth. Take the essence of rabbit into yourself and become both. I am the rabbit, the prey, the fear, and I am the fox, the hunter, the strength. Finally, another article from the Urban House spoke to me so deeply as I was already engaging with this lesson, and this then is a quote by Shannon Crossman. The alone is the epicenter of my heart beating rabbit fast and quiet. Today it is soft and tender, but soon, oh love, soon a roar reverberates across the heavens, will rip through this place. Wisdom rising up from my wells, I cannot know or name, only surrendered to. Carry home on the back of my tongue to spill into the world like holy fire, burning away all the dross. I am coming, becoming, unbecoming, and I vow to never stop. And that is very Morriganic in its shapeshifting practice, that the Morrigan is a creature of eternal making and unmaking. You'll be made and unmade over and over and over again working with her. For your benefit, but a lot of people fear that process. The only thing stopping me is the fear. There you go. So I will sit with my fear, I will wear it like a mask, I will understand it in all its complexity, not to simplify it, not to reject it, but to better understand it. I will not allow my fear to rule over me, but instead to understand it speaks of wounding, wounds within my psyche that need addressing, cleansing and healing. I will not become the fear caller, nor will I reject others out of fear, but neither shall I allow myself to be made small by the fearful actions of others, for I am both rabbit and fox. I will understand fear as a reflection of myself, and in that mirror I will seek to better understand, stand in my authenticity, and not to reject myself, all the lessons that I have thus far learned, and not to lord them over others either. Rabbit teaches us to be quick and shy, and when to remove ourselves from situations that are not beneficial, when the medicine is wisely measured and fear is consultant, not ruler. Fox teaches us to stride forward unabashed, knowing these paths through shadow and touch and feel, remembering who I am at heart. Don't send a rabbit to kill a fox, because you are only hurting yourself. So that's how that tied in. And so you will not find, as I mentioned, foxes or moths, or rabbits for that matter, mentioned as traditional animal associations with the goddess Morrigan, but I consider them personal guardians on the path which she has led me. Personal spirituality though it might be, it is no less valid than the animals associated with her by the ancient people, who were, after all, human. The husks in the afterlife felt synonymous with the discarded and empty silken cocoons of the moth. Shadow lessons concerning fear have us clawing away for the old and uncomfortable. We know the terrain, for the labyrinth of the underworld is well worn. There is no uncertainty or trepidation. Death is life, and death is transition, and so is life. And so the silver birch-laden labyrinth had led me to a place where my bleeding heart and soul fell into the field and connected again to the goddess Babe, whose screechings denote the essence of fear and leave us with a choice: bleed life into your spirituality or let it rot. So there has been a lot for me with regards to fox energy and stepping between worlds. The stepping between worlds into the otherworldly spaces, the energies of both sovereignty and moving into liminal death spaces are very, very Morriganic with me, and they are therefore, at least in my personal gnosis, completely intrinsic to how I understand the Morrigan and how I understand myself. And so the fox energy that so many are like, oh, it's a trickster, it's a liar, and me. And it's like, no, it's just another aspect of a shapeshifter, of which the Morrigan is, in her very essence, in her very being, a shifter of her shape. The whole point to be able to walk between worlds, to be a psychopomp, to speak to the dead, to speak to the living and the dead, to shapeshift in all of those energies, is intrinsically fox-like. It's a very important part of who I am. And so I present that information to you at this Samhain and hope that is interesting and useful. And we're going to be having a closer look in the next video about working with the spirit bones of a fox and what that means and what that looks like, and just talk about that energy a little bit. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'll see you on the next one.